Welcome, everyone, back to week 11 of our Thriving in the New Normal series. We're so glad to have you back here. And this week we have a really exciting topic that we're going to be talking about, something that I think is the lifeblood of every single residential replacement HVAC company out there, and that is performance tune-ups. So what I'd like everybody to do, if you could, please take out your cell phones. Make sure that you have the phone number 713-856-1853 saved in your phone. And if you would like further information on any of the topics that we're going to be covering today, please go ahead and text the word associated with each of the topics. You will see these in the presentation, so you don't have to write down all of the words to text. But this will give you access to flyers and documents and other events that you can register for and that you can sign up for to take a deeper dive into the information that we have. Just to review, here's a list of all of the Thriving in the New Normal series that we have done so far. All of these are available for you to go back and review at the Goodman Business Toolbox or the Amana Brand Business Academy. Once you go to either one of those, click Dealer and then Training Resources. You'll see the Thriving in the New Normal tab. When you go in there, you will see each of these different programs there for you to be able to go ahead and view and take a look at if you had missed any of the previous programs that we had. Please also go ahead and open up your chat. And I encourage you, as we're going through this presentation, to be able to make this interactive and be able to dive into the different topics that we have. Our presenters will respond back to you as we are going through this presentation over the next hour. So let's start off here, and I just have a question for everybody. Maintenance, is it needed? How many of you have heard this from friends, family, people that may be outside of the industry before? Do I really need to get my furnace tuned up? Do I really need to get my air conditioner tuned up? Or maybe you've even heard that from employees at an HVAC contractor shop. Is maintenance really necessary? Do technicians take the time to tune up their own equipment? Or is it more like the shoemaker's children, that they're the ones running around without shoes? And so I think this is really important for us to think about when we're thinking about what we go out and what we do. Are we providing services that we can be authentic with? Or are we providing services where we're inauthentic because I was told that this is something that we need to do and we don't understand really how this impacts the business or the customer that we're going out to see? And we'll dive into this a little bit deeper. But one of the things I wanted to just introduce is this win-win-win philosophy. Harvard Business School, back many, many years ago, came up with the definition for good business. And they said it's a win-win-win philosophy. And so when you have a win for the homeowner, a win for the residential HVAC replacement business, and a win for the distributor or the manufacturer, that's probably good business when you look at the different aspects of the supply chain. And when we take a look at open tune-ups, it may not necessarily make sense. Well, how is that beneficial to the distributor, to the manufacturer? How is that beneficial to the homeowner? And maybe even how is that beneficial to the business? It's probably one of the lowest cost revenue generating things that we do as a company. Yet, as you can see in the HVAC business diagram, it has the greatest impact out of all of the other activities that we have in the HVAC business model. See, when those tune-ups come in, they turn into maintenance agreement opportunities. They turn into opportunities for indoor air quality. They turn into opportunities for replacement sales. And when we get that customer involved with a maintenance agreement, as we talked about as we introduced the HVAC business model, those maintenance agreements turn into opportunities for replacement sales, opportunities for indoor air quality, opportunities for demand service. And it all started with that open tune-up getting into the door. But there's a couple of things that we have to make sure. We have to make sure that when we're going out and doing the tune-ups, that we have a strategy in place. And whether that strategy is for the tune-up itself to be profitable, or the strategy is for the tune-up to be a revenue generator through these other activities that we have in the model, we have to have all the correct support mechanisms in place in order to be successful. And so as we cover this over the course of the next hour here, we're going to be talking about those support strategies and the different things that we need to have in place in order to be successful with our open tune-up strategy that we develop for our business. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Matthew Bratsis. He's going to talk about it from a getting compensated standpoint for the service that you're doing and how we can leverage financing to help us grow our tune-ups in our maintenance agreements. So Matthew, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ben. Really appreciate it. Hope everybody out there is having a great Friday. I hope that it's starting to get sunny and warm where you live, because that's good for our business, and hopefully that keeps going on. What I want to talk about is how you can bundle your maintenance agreements and how you can have finance working for you to help you with those maintenance agreements. So if you click to the next slide. So we do a lot of interviews. When we sit down with our contractors to onboard them into the process, we go through a long set of questionnaires to try to understand their sales process and to try to understand, you know, how they operate so that we can get them set up on the right financing solution with how they operate. And it amazes me how many times we hear these same common struggles from our contractor base, right? Our dealers tell me all the time, I really struggle selling maintenance agreements. I really struggle with it. That's something I got to get better at. Or how does so-and-so sell so many contracts, so many maintenance contracts? You know, I don't get being able to sell it, and we don't do that well, or I've got to figure out how to get my team offering maintenance agreement. I haven't been able to figure that out. And it amazes me how many times this comes up. I would say 8 out of 10 dealers that we talk to give me the exact same rebuttal on, I need help. I don't know how to sell these. And our first response from a financing standpoint is, well, why are you trying to sell maintenance agreements, right? It's akin to, and this is the way I've always used this, and the thing that our team has always said is, it's akin to when you go to a Best Buy or you go to a Target or wherever you want to go and you buy a television. When you get to that checkout, what do they say to you? The first thing they say is, do you want to purchase the extended warranty, or do you want to purchase the extended agreement? And what, 9 out of 10 times people say, no, I'm not going to do that. You've already made the decision to buy that television. You've already committed to that television, to the price you've got, and to whatever that is that you're putting in your cart, right? Now, all of a sudden, to have an additional sale on the back end is a tough sale for anybody on any process, whether we're talking televisions or whether we're talking HVAC systems. So my question is, why are you trying to sell maintenance agreements secondarily outside of what you're doing as the unit? So let's see, go the next slide, Ben. Let's see how finance can do the selling for you. This is a part of a good, better, best that one of my contractors was using that they shared with me that I wanted to show you and explain to you how. Stop selling maintenance agreements. Use that as a value prop in your product so that you can differentiate yourself from your competitors. Here, you see they have the gold product is a 16 SEER single stage, and 92% efficiency and all that other stuff that I really don't know very much about because I'm just a finance guy. But you'll notice what he's included is a 5 years of annual maintenance. That's included in his pricing, right? And for that product, the 16 SEER, the entire package he's getting with a 5-year annual maintenance contract, his price is $131 a month. You'll notice on his 16 SEER Plus, his 16 SEER 2-stage condenser, he's included a 10 years of annual maintenance. He's given them a 10-year maintenance package. He's not trying to sell this. He's including this as a value add to all of his products so that when a customer says, okay, what does this come with? He's got a value add product that probably his competitors don't have. And this is what we want to teach you and how you can make that impact. And we will work with you on how to make that impact so that it's broken down over a period of time. We look a little bit deeper in this. Let's take that gold one that he was looking at, the 16 SEER. Right now you say 5 years of annual maintenance. Well, for him, and again, this is going to vary depending upon where your location is. For him, he was going to charge an annual $449 for that 5 year of annual maintenance, right? So now this is $449 that he's written into his job that is included in his total pricing. So if you look at the the red arrow that says $9,700, that includes an additional $449 of bottom line profit that he's adding, and the ability to maintain a relationship with that customer for 5 years. And the customer believes that now he's a part of that organization's family. But the way he's been able to do it and pricing it at $131 a month has added, literally, it's added $5.26 per their monthly payment. So he went from $126 a month to $131 a month, and he's given him 5 years of peace of mind. And I can tell you, as a non-HVAC guy here, as really the most consumerish guy that's out here that is just finance friendly, when I recently did my 16 SEER 2-stage upgrade, and I happened to get a Goodman unit, just so we can put that out there, on my 16-year stage 2 stage, I asked for an annual maintenance contract. I don't want to think about this for the next 10 years. I don't want to have to worry about whether this is coming. I want them to come here once or twice a year, make sure that it's been tuned up, make sure that it's good. It's the same way I do with my car. I take my car in for oil changes, right? I go to the doctor not when something is wrong. I go to the doctor once a year or maybe twice a year just for a checkup, just to have an annual make sure I'm okay. Why would you not want to do the same thing with a program that you've invested? But stop selling your maintenance contract. Use this as a value prop and add it into your program, and let the monthly payment be so small and affect it, and make yourself more profit. With that, that's really my message for today. If you have any questions on financing, please text money to the number. I would love to talk to you. With all that, I hope everybody has a great weekend. There's a lot of good content coming up. Please pay attention. I'll throw it back to you, Ben.
Thank you so much, Matthew. Really appreciate that. We're going to be starting a new section when we start talking about the customer for life. And I wanted to introduce a concept to everybody. And this is a concept that's been around for over 2,000 years. And it's interesting because this concept, it has been used by many different spiritualities over the years. It's been used by many different philosophers. It's been used by many different people as they kind of look at it. And some of you in the audience may have heard of the Enneagram before. And the Enneagram comes from Greek. Ennea meaning 9, gram meaning writing or drawing. And it comes together, so it's the 9 drawings or the 9 writings that you will have. And basically what it does is it gives 9 different archetypes that are out there that describe the different ways that people interact with each other, and the different ways that people see the world through various different lenses, if you will. And I am curious with the people that we do have on the call, if you guys have your chat box open, if you're familiar with the Enneagram, how many people know what their number is? And so if you are familiar with what your number is, I was just curious to see if people would go ahead and chat that in. I'm curious to see how many people have actually done some work with the Enneagram in the past or not. And we'll see if any of those start to come across. But when I go into the next slide and we jump into it, what you'll see, this is the drawing, and you'll see the 9 numbers. And so in each of these numbers, like I said, it's an archetype. You have the 1, which is the reformer, the perfectionist, the judge, the critic. You have 2, who's your helper, can be described as a manipulator or a nurturer. And we'll talk a little bit about how that all ties together. You have your 3, who's the achiever, the performer, the status seeker. 4, the individualist, the romantic, the artist. The 5, the investigator, observer, thinker. 6 is your loyalist, your loyal skeptic, the person that questions everything. 7 is the enthusiast, the epicure, the adventurer. 8s are your challengers, protectors, leaders, mavericks. And 9s are your peacemakers and your mediators. What we're going to talk about this, and so it's interesting. I see a couple of numbers coming out here across the chat. What we're going to talk about today is the triads, and the triads are 3 groupings within the 9. And so in the triads, I have my body, which is those that use their gut and are very instinctive. We have our heart, which is our feeling, and then we have our head, which you can think of as thinking and doing. And when we look at these different ones that are out here, the heart is those that use feeling, and they look through that lens of feeling in everything that they interpret. A lot of times, those that are in the heart triad, they're very, very, they have self-image issues. They're seeking for other people to affirm them in who they are and what they are. They're past oriented, and they may have issues of shame that has developed them in the past. The head centers, when we look at the head centers, have a lot of anxiety and insecurities. They're seeking security. They're very future oriented, and the ego defense is there to cover their fears that they may have. And then when we get into the gut center and we start looking into that, we may have boundary issues where people don't necessarily want to let anybody get close. And we may see that they're resistant to authority, and they're always seeking to be in charge of everybody else that's around them. And so why is all of this important? Why are we talking about this? I was sitting with one of my friends who's a contractor, and we actually went through an Enneagram program together. And what he was able to identify is he's a self-proclaimed 8, the challenger, the protector, the leader, the maverick. And he started to see how he was leading his people. And what he really started, and this is why this tool is so important, what he really started to see was he could start to see how different people in his organization started to take on different characteristics, and how when he pushed one way, he wasn't going to get the desired outcome from that individual because of how he looked through the world and how he wanted to get things done. Instead, he had to look at how they see the world in order to be able to work with them better. And that's where we will start to use the Enneagram and for the next couple of weeks, we'll be diving deeper and deeper into this. We'll look at the stances, we'll look at the wings, and we'll start to look at everything else that we have here. And we'll really, really get into how we can use this to see how other people view the world and how we view the world, and how we can work better together, and how we can work with our customers better, and we can work with those that we work with at work. So there's a couple of great authors that I would recommend to everybody if you want to learn a little bit more about this and you want to take some time to understand it a little bit more. And for each of those, I had written them down here. I'll put them up in the chat for you so that you can go ahead and write those down. And then you can go ahead and if you want to dive into this a little bit deeper. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Plugoff.
Yo, good morning. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Much appreciated. So I want to talk about something actually quite practical regarding this this matter of service and taking care of customers, and communicating the quality of an experience, and really why that has become a form of currency in our industry, certainly. So the loose title was the marketing plan, right? The soul behind the script. I think what's really unique about the place that our industry is at right now is that we've made a pretty tectonic transition from one in which our value to the market has been primarily determined by our technical expertise to one in which now our market value is very much defined by the ways in which we communicate our experiences and the strength of our brand message, all of which kind of fall under the umbrella of something that the Power Selling Pros team has talked about, which is how do you make your clients feel, right? What is the emotional output that you're trying to generate from that customer interaction process? So I'd like to ask a couple of questions, and I would encourage you to think about them after we're finished. Ben, will you move the slide, please? All right. Nah, all right, there you go. Okay, so 2 questions, right? Number 1, I have to move my little chat bar here because it's kind of jamming up my vibe. Has your company attempted to define a brand story that describes its value proposition? Number 1, if you asked all the people that work in your business, be it a small company or a larger firm, has your company attempted to define a brand story? Do you know what story your company is trying to tell? The answer to that question is important because, if the answer obviously is no, then what results from that is a very fragmented relationship with your clients, such that one individual who's a frontline employee may have one interpretation of what your company stands for. Meanwhile, another frontline employee may have a completely different definition or understanding or even application of what your company and what your brand stands for. Great brands within a company not only create great teamwork and a great culture, but they manifest themselves in the ways in which you interact at various client touch points. Obviously, the goal is consistency, and clearly the outcome of that consistency is a particular kind of relationship between you and your customers. And then second, and this is a challenging question, I think, for any organization, but in particular the larger firms, how confident are you that people across your organization can tell your brand story accurately and consistently? If, for the sake of discussion, we took 10 employees from the same company, put them into different spaces, and asked them to all tell the brand story, where would your level of confidence be that you're going to get the same output, generally speaking? If they're all telling the same story, you've got the basis for a fantastic client interaction, be it at the service, sales, installation, or CSR level. If you have a fragmented series of answers, then that's the opportunity to create some brand unity and to start focusing your energies and efforts on what the company really does stand for. The practical application, of course, is that we need customers that are not simply transactional. And the statistic that was on the previous slide clearly indicates that if you have a negative experience with a particular company or a particular brand, the likelihood of you going back to that is very low. So I would encourage you to think about changing your relationships and, in particular, the ways in which you coach your teams. Ask questions, first of all, to help understand the knowledge gaps among your team members. Not everybody is going to have the same understanding of your company, from its foundation to its current iteration. If you were to ask them again, what do we stand for, you'll quickly understand that there are some important gaps that need to be filled. Second, one size fits all, and I think this is why the PowerSelling Pros team guys have been so instrumental in this series of webinars. Customizing your training based on your team feedback and market feedback gives you a nimbleness and a market relevance that a cookie cutter out of the box training program doesn't support. So customizing your training means your training with your team should reflect the goals that you're trying to accomplish, as well as the feedback you're gaining from your clients. And third and finally, you want confident service technicians, right? And you want them to feel that they can serve customers and overserve the customers in the best interest of the experience you're trying to create. And so if you've listened to Erica or Steve or Brendan, I think one of the things that I've heard, at least, is that it's one thing to tell somebody what to say, and that's very easy to do. The more complicated opportunity and challenge is to start teaching them how to make people feel. And I apologize for the typo there. And those are 2 very different ways of thinking about training people. If you look at retention, and if you look at the retention rates among people that kind of get out of the box trainings, there's a reason they have to keep going back and back and back and back, because there's not necessarily an experience-based underpinning. When you hear Erica talk about the framework for excellence, right? There's a reason that makes sense. And it's because it's a philosophical or it's an experience-driven basis from which the brand then can grow. Ostensibly, this is a presentation about service techs, but beyond that, and perhaps in a more lasting manner, this is also a presentation about how you embed yourself in your clients' lives, how your brand embeds itself in your clients' lives, so that they move from being a transactional type of client to one with sustainable and most importantly, sustainable revenue interests for you and your team. So I'd say it's time to step back and think about how your company is telling its brand story, what your understanding of that story is, how the market is responding to it, and how it changes the way you coach your people. So thank you very much. I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Matt. I appreciate it. And everyone who's taking time out of their business to work on it instead of in it. There are a few points that I want to make sure we bring home. In order to get to the human being, we have to appease a robot, right? We have to make sure that that brand story, that service is available for a consumer who's online doing a search and trying to find a solution for a problem. So first and foremost, when you're trying to embed tune-ups and maintenance and so forth inside your business, we have to remember that your website has multiple front doors. In fact, every single page on your website is technically a front door if that interior page is sitting on page 1 of Google. Now, first and foremost, if somebody is searching for AC tune-ups in the city they live, the city you serve, and that page doesn't exist, it's impossible to make a bot file something that doesn't exist. So first and foremost, audit your site and see if it's there. Now, everything Matt said, it applies in every element. It applies on your website. It applies in your content. It applies in your call to actions. It applies on your social media sites. That brand story and the feeling that a consumer gets happens way before any human being is actually talking to them. So first, do you have this available? Is it on your website? Can somebody come to your site and click on, or can somebody go to Google, search for AC tune-up in a specific location and actually find that you provide that service? Now, if the answer is yes, let me back up. If the answer is no, that's the first step, right? Create the page, build the content, invest in search engine optimization, get the page moved up to the front of Google. Now, if the answer is yes, Google cares more about you taking an existing page and beefing it up, making it more of an authority by adding content, adding images, adding pricing, adding pictures, adding before and after, adding that brand story, adding every element you can to that page. The page becomes stronger. In addition to that, not only does Google appreciate you adding to an existing page, but you get smarter over time. You can't invest, money doesn't grow on trees, right? So we can't make every single page on an entire website perfect from day one. That's not realistic. What is realistic is to work towards making sure that that service is available to the consumer who's doing the search. And then when the service is available, when your website starts to work for you, we need to make sure that we update that page, advance that page, and turn it more into a sales story. Turn it more into a landing page instead of just a page with a chunk of content and a couple pictures on it. So you guys have challenges as you go through this process, right? One is you might have consumers who are trying to sign up for a tune-up because that's the cheapest thing they can find on the website. So we need to address that right out of the gate. We need to make sure that it's very, very clearly identified that if you're in a situation where you have no air, no heat, that's a repair call. That's a different process. If you're looking to get set up with something that's more of a preventative solution, then we're looking at a tune-up. And if you want the easy button, if you're like me, I will tell every single contractor who comes to me, let me help you sell me and take my money, because I don't ever want to worry about an air conditioning system, having it work, a filter, or anything related to it. I don't want to worry about it. I'd rather put a credit card on file and know that that baby is yours. I don't want that in my life. So you've got to make sure you've got an easy button for those kind of consumers who don't want that themselves. In addition, every opportunity you have. So Matthew was just talking about, do you know that we have a 5-year maintenance agreement that can be included with the purchase of a new high efficiency system? Remember, when you're first building your page, everything is going to be regarding air conditioner tune-up, AC tune-up, air conditioning tune-up, And then once it ranks, you can start cross-referencing other services. So you can start cross-selling. Did you know you can get a 5-year maintenance agreement included with the purchase of a high-efficiency air conditioning system? Did you know that you can finance that for as little as XYZ? So these are some of the examples of how to cross-sell different things. In the beginning, you're going to have just kind of a simple little page, just a little bit of content around air conditioning, but this needs to grow. We need to turn this into a salesperson. We need to turn this into a customer service rep who knows how to cross-sell. Next, we need to make sure that we figure out, what are you guys making it? What's your goal of the page? Are you trying to make it easy? Are you trying to make it simple? Are you trying to make it fast? Are you trying to make it convenient? Do you allow somebody to be able to see, what is it? Is it included? There's an entire audience of people that they want to be able to do their homework, find the information they need, figure out what's included, know how much it costs, and be able to simply sign up online. Do you give that audience the ability to do so? Now, if you're dealing with someone that's not sure whether they need repair or service or installation, do you have the ability for them to troubleshoot it, to try and figure it out on their own? There's a lot of individuals who want to figure out, or want to try and Google it and YouTube it and figure out if they can fix something on their own. Maybe they are having issues and it's not quite a tune-up call, but they're trying to get the $99 or $49 or $69 or $129 price point. So give them the option to try and troubleshoot that. You can do that by embedding a widget in the site. You can also do that by embedding it into an AI chatbot. Let them troubleshoot and try and fix those issues on their own. If it doesn't work and they can't fix it, then go back and say, okay, maybe this wasn't a tune-up. It's not working. I can't fix it. Let's schedule the repair. In addition, stay with whatever your mode is, whatever that brand voice is. If your voice is convenience and ease, then use language such as set it and forget it. Schedule online today. Want to start a virtual service? Let's troubleshoot it together with your Zoom. If you need help, you can always call. So keep reiterating that, okay, we're giving all this information. You guys, Ben showed a lot of personality styles included on that chart. Though each of those personality styles has different desires, they like different elements of this, and they don't like different elements of it. So you've got to make sure that as you're building the page to have the page work for you, that you include those different personality styles and make sure you address them. Ensuring you have a click to call. This is a great time to offer an introduction to other things. So are you not sure what you need? Do you want to view our products, services, pricing, and financing? And then going into the benefits. So you've identified, you've worked with the customer to be able to determine, is this actually a repair? Maybe I need to get a new system. Maybe I shouldn't be trying to resuscitate this and keep this alive. Okay, Matthew. Okay, I got it. Just plug off. Do me a favor. Mute, pretty please. Okay, thank you. Okay, so make sure that you're also including, this is technically the original content of a page that would be designed for search engine optimization or to get Google to rank the page. It's bland, it's a lot of content, it's really for a bot to crawl it and figure out that you focus on air conditioning tune-ups. That's your main gig. That's what you do. All of this other stuff can be added to the page, turn it into this landing page so that it performs. As they drill into the page, there's other elements. So every call to action on that page brought them to another page. You want to cross-market these things. So on the page where you allow somebody to sign up for a spring tune-up or a fall tune-up, also include your maintenance plan. And on the place where you provide a good, better, best option, this is where you can add things like your IAQ and your thermostats, your extended warranties, your maintenance agreements, and showcase easily what Matthew was referring to earlier, the ability to pay over time. So with that, my recommendation is just remember that every single page on your website is kind of like investing in a resource. We were talking about training your employees, training your team. Well, technically, every one of the pages on your website should function like a well-trained employee over time. You would continue to invest in training, continue to invest in their growth. You sign up with Power Selling Pros. That's what you do with human beings. Your website is no different. The only difference is it doesn't sleep. It doesn't take a night off. It doesn't take vacation time. It doesn't clone down at 2 a.m. It works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So why not invest in it and make each individual subject matter expert, i.e. AC tune-up versus maintenance versus installation versus repair, as sharp as you would want every single person who's answering the phone, every person who's doing sales, scheduling, technicians, and so forth. Invest in improvement because this will pay off over time, no different than investing in coaching and training does. With that, thank you so much. And I will hand this over to the exact person I'm talking about right now, the beautiful Erica from Power Selling Pros.
Oh, thank you so much, Jennifer. That was absolutely amazing. I love listening to you speak, as well as Matthew and Matt and Ben. Thank you for all your wonderful content. And just to shout out to my homegirl, Jennifer, it's your birthday week, so happy birthday again. She's absolutely amazing. So I love everything that's been going on right now of utilizing different resources in your website and creating brand ambassadors and really connecting with your customers. And so a particular pain point that we notice in call handling is that when customers call in and they say, hey, I need to schedule my tune-up, the number one thing that I hear in phone calls is, okay, what's your address? And we just go directly to booking the call and setting up an appointment without really asking any clarifying questions. And so what's happening, the problem is that you get all these tune-up calls because somebody got a postcard in the mail from you of all this stuff going on. They get this postcard and they're like, ooh, a $69 tune-up, woohoo, I want to pay for that because that's cheap, when really it's a service call in disguise. And we need to be able to ask these clarifying questions to make sure we are sending the right person to the right call. So I love that you're doing any kind of marketing, any postcards, any blasts on your website or email. Definitely send those out when you're doing these promotions, because really this is the only predictable way you're going to be able to make money is by you doing this outreach and getting tune-ups and maintenance agreements, and your customers are loyal to you forever. Everything that's been said with giving people that 5-10-year warranty or that 5-10-year maintenance, you want people to be sticky. And so definitely send these out. But make sure that your team has the training that they need to clarify which direction they need to go. And what's the best thing is that preventing these problems from happening is so much easier. Next slide, please, Ben. Is so much easier than overcoming objections. The last thing that we want is to send a maintenance tech to the home when we get out there and we realize that it's a service call and the customer, was just trying to get the best deal. We can't blame the customer for that. Remember, they're not experts. They don't really know what they don't know. They just saw $69 and in their mind, they're thinking $69. And so preventing these things from happening is so much easier than overcoming when you get a maintenance tech out there and now instead of him being able to work, you have to call in and reschedule appointments to get somebody else out there, and it's the middle of summer and that's not happened for 24 to 48 hours. And so I want to give you guys a list of questions that you could potentially ask. You don't have to ask all of them, but going back to what Matt was saying is the main goal is to help people have a feeling of working with you. And our number one thing that we want to make sure is happening is that they have an easy experience. So here are a few questions that you could ask customers when they call in and say, hey, I need to schedule a tune-up. Hey, have you had any issues with vents blowing hot or cold air? That's a great question. We should be asking probably in every single phone call with tune-ups. Another question, you can just go ahead and fill them out here, Ben. That's totally fine. Is there any construction going on in the home? This might give us a good idea of maybe how dirty some filters might be, gives us a good idea of what's going on. I always love to start with this one as well. Your customer's not expecting to buy anything. If it's a real tune-up, they're not expecting to pay for a repair. So I like to set that expectation. Hey, in the event our service professional finds an issue with either a safety or failure prevention issue, do you happen to know when your system was installed so we can check on any warranty? This now gives me the age of the equipment as well as know that if we can do any background research on warranty. Sometimes we need to know if anything isn't part of an insurance claim. You might want to know this whether you work with insurance companies or not. Another question would be to ask where it's located. We're doing indoor maintenance, outdoor maintenance. Do we need to bring any ladders? definitely some good stuff that I would want to know. On the next slide, here's some other questions for you. Has it been performing to your liking? Are things working well? We want to ask this. Or maybe we want to ask, what inspired you to call us? Oh, what inspired me to call you was I found your postcard in the mail, or I got an email saying this, or my neighbor. It's a great way to ask people not only where they found you, but kind of get an idea of maybe what's going on. Another one you could be, when was the last time a tune-up took place? Or when was the last time you changed your filters? And if you really want to have a feel-good conversation, have you seen the latest Star Wars movie? I mean, you throw that question in there and you're going to start laughing with your customers, and now you're building a little rapport about Star Wars. So I know, if you all know me, I'm a big nerd, but it's just having a good conversation with them when really the number one intention is that it's easy experiences for your customers, and we want to prevent any problems from happening. So really, here's another follow-up script for you. If customers push back and they're like, why are you asking me this? I just want a tune-up, nothing's wrong with it. Here's an idea of something that you could say. Hey, thank you for taking the time to answer these questions. I just want to make sure I send you to the correct technician who has the ability to take care of your system. The last thing that I want is for you to be inconvenienced because I sent you the wrong guy. I want to send you the right person for it's a maintenance or a service repair. So there's an idea of something you could say. Always ask them, when can we come and get out there and take care of that for you? So some basic guidelines here. You guys know Power Selling Pros, you know how to find us. Everybody here on Goodwin everyone's such good trainers, such good content for you. Train your CSRs, coach them. It's the repetition. You've got to do it over and over and over again, getting people comfortable asking these questions and knowing when to ask them and how to ask them. We can do that for you. So find us, powersellingpros.com/coaching, text power to your phone number. It's the best. It's what you need, and get them ready and prep for the summer. So thank you so much. And Mr. David Holt, my Papa Bear, it's over to you.
Princess Erica, thank you. And Mr. Skywalker is waiting for you in the living room. May the force be with you, my love.
Thank
All
you.
right. So here we go. Problem identified. High performance tune-up magic. What in the world is this all about? Well, I'm a nerd too, and I like to start off with defining words. So I want to think about the word high performance, or the phrase, if you will, the hyphenated word high performance. And when I think about high performance, I like fast cars, fast motorcycles, things like that. So when you think about high performance, what you're trying to do is you're trying to achieve better than expected results, right? I don't want to be just regular. I want to be able to hold this up and say, wow, right? I want to be able to be better than what they expect, right? So when you think about high performance, what we want to do is we want to think about all the things that we do, whether it be our web presence, whether it be our ability to get people money financed, whether it be having a right marketing strategy, whether it be the person answering the phone, our person who is our director of first impressions. It doesn't matter what the role is. If everybody in the group that's a part of our team is focused on being better than expected, the results will follow. So high performance is one thing. Tune-up is the other piece of this puzzle. So let's look at that real quick. So if we define tune-up, a tune-up is maintenance performed on a system, whether that be a HVAC system or a car or whatever, to ensure that it continues to perform well, right? So maintenance, right? Maintenance, we got to stay in touch with that product or service to make sure that it's being taken care of. A couple of folks have already mentioned the importance of training and repetition. Well, maintenance is, well, I'm just glad I don't take a shower once a year, and you would be too if you were around me, right? So we maintain our health, we maintain our physical being, we maintain our homes, our cars. We got to make sure that people understand that maintenance is more than just showing up and changing a filter. There should be much more to it. In fact, the maintenance side of this equation, I've got the word safety, health, comfort, and efficiency down below. When I was teaching our service techs and my dad's business, here at Holt Service Company in Georgia, one of the things that we focused on is we focused on safety first. And if you think about the value of having a trained professional come to your home to evaluate the safety of your system, first and foremost, I mean, that's worth something that's beyond money, because if your system is creating an unsafe situation because of things that are completely out of the homeowner's control. Like right now, my parents, neither one could crawl up in the attic and go check their furnace, or in the basement. They got one in the basement, they got one in the attic. They can't get up there. They're in their 80s. They can't crawl up there. They need a professional to come in there and look at their system from a safety standpoint. So you think about health, you think about comfort, you think about efficiency. When you look through all four of those lenses, maintenance, when we focus on those four areas, becomes much more than just cleaning a coil or changing a filter. So we got our two words defined. Let's think about vital signs. Okay, let's talk about health. Everybody understands bodies, right? Our human body. And there's tons of human vital signs, but the big one that shows up in this graphic is blood pressure. Well, why is that? Well, without blood pressure, we're dead, right? If we've got no blood pressure, we're gone. So what's the first thing people check? They check pulse, they check blood pressure. They're looking to see if the pump is working. But you know, every time you go to the doctor's office or to the hospital, hopefully you don't get put in that box over there on the right. You don't go in for an MRI every time you go in, right? What do? They do initial diagnostic testing to figure out what's going on from a vital sign. Well, what's that look like for an HVAC system? Well, HVAC system has vital signs as well. So if we look at that, click. If we look at that, we got different measurements, right? Instead of blood pressure, we look at static pressure, right? We're looking at the equivalent to blood pressure on the HVAC system, but notice the picture that I've got over there to the right. It's not just a piece of equipment. The HVAC system includes everything that system, that equipment is connected to. So the duct system, actually the structure itself becomes a part of the HVAC system, because really there's three components to a comfort system. There's the structure that the system is installed in. There's the mechanical equipment that you and I are very comfortable with and we understand how to work on. But the third and most important element is actually the occupants, right? So when you put the structure, the mechanical system, and the occupants together, and you begin looking at how can I maintain a proper comfort level, a proper safety level, a proper efficiency level, a proper health level within that structure, it takes looking at all these different things. It's not just go in, change a filter, and rock and roll down the path. So where the HVAC system, the vital signs we start looking at begin with things like static pressure, because things like fan airflow and static pressure go hand in hand. Let's look at how that works. So if you think about vital sign test procedures, right? So in the healthcare situation, people will check your pulse, right? They'll check your blood pressure, and they're figuring out if your pump and your arteries and veins are working okay. On an HVAC system, we want to test static pressure. And if you test it and you put the information into a tool, like we've got an app that you can download at airmaxlight.com, where you can take two static pressure readings and you can kind of tell how well that system is operating. In fact, you can also text NCI to the number on your screen up there, and we'll send you a link where you can go download this thing direct. But think about if you went to the doctor's office and they never tested your blood pressure and they never weighed you and they never asked you any questions. They just looked at you and they said, take 2 aspirin, call me in the morning. Right, and they did that. You wouldn't be going back to that doctor, right? So we want to make sure that when we do these test procedures that we're following the right things. And here's an interesting thing. When you think about test procedures, let's go to the next slide real quick. When you think about these test procedures, the reason for test procedures is early detection, right? I want to identify opportunities to avoid catastrophe, right? So early detection refers to measures that can be taken to diagnose a problem as early as possible when the situation is easiest to remedy. Rather than wait for the thing to break down on the 4th of July, I'd rather take care of it now when it's not so hot, right? I can get to it right now. So high performance tune-ups feature early detection as a cornerstone, and they're looking at all four of those elements. So processes, my buddy Tom, who's our next presenter, has got a whole series of checklists that I'm sure he'd be happy to share with you if you ask. But here's the interesting thing. Why do I have those refrigerant hoses over there? Well, one of the problems is the maintenance processes that most of us use today on HVAC involve putting refrigerant gauges on a piece of HVAC equipment. Not necessary. It's a sealed system. If it doesn't have a leak, there's no need to check the refrigerant pressure every time. How in the world is that true? Find out more by going to more technical training. We'll show you how to do a non-refrigerant gauge maintenance process. You can check that out with NCI. With that, I'm going to turn this over to my friend, Coach Tom.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks to everybody on the call and all of our presenters. You guys are fabulous. It's been grateful to be a part of this. Okay, so problem solution, intention and direction. You know, my dad always told me that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, of great people that have good intentions but went the wrong way. So our intention is our purpose and our picture. Why are we doing this? When it comes to air conditioning tune-ups, heating tune-ups in and of themselves, that's one thing. What's the bigger picture, the bigger plan? The best way I think I illustrate this is to look at your business cycle, okay? So what you're looking at right now on the screen, there's 1 through 5 inverted on the left-hand side. 5 represents demand season, 1 represents slow season, okay? Right in the middle, number 3, there's a red line there because typically if I do a business analysis, that number 3 is usually the break-even point. Below that point, they're probably losing money. Above it, we're making a little bit of money. Could you go to the next slide, please, Ben? There we go. It looks something like this. So if we simply say, hey, we're going to advertise for a bunch of tune-ups, if you're like me, as managing a couple of heating air conditioning companies myself, your senior technicians probably aren't all excited about that in and of itself, okay? Because we forgot a couple of things. We need to be able to influence the thoughts of our team, our internal customers, and everybody about the value of all of these components. And maintenance, these tune-ups, open tune-ups are a vital part of that. Let's go ahead and go to the next screen, Ben. So first of all, have a business direction first for your organization, okay? Number 1 and number 2, super important. Positive cash flow. If you're not sure where yours are, call me. I can help you with that, no charge. It's a 1-hour consultation. It can change the game for your business. Second, make sure that you're able to surpass break even every month, okay, by at least the 3rd working week of the month. Third, surpass your KPIs. And then finally, business is super important, is to sustain a supportive work culture and environment, okay? How do you do that if you just stop right there with your business objectives? It's probably not going to happen, okay? Now, for service and maintenance objectives, the direction is agreements, replacement leads, preemptive repairs, and revenue per hour, okay? We all know that, okay? But when we're introducing this to the team, we have to seek first to understand what they want before we can lay any of this out on them, okay? From their perspective, what are their concerns? So there's 4 P's. Write these down because this will help you. Purpose is number 1. What's the purpose of this thing that we're going to start doing? What's the purpose? Write that down. Number 2, what's it going to look like when we finish this? This time next year, what's going to be so different about this company and putting me through the pain of doing all of this year? 3, what's the plan? How are we going to do this? How are we going to execute on this? And finally, what's my role to play? What do you expect of me? Purpose, picture, plan, and part to play. Those 4 elements with your team can inspire them to do things they normally wouldn't do. Let's go to the next one, Ben. So let's talk about the dynamics of this, right? So a sales curve like this is true for Indiana, where I'm from, And I highly recommend that you plot yours out. It's very simple. Need any help? Give me a call. Okay. So these are upswings, upswing months. Upswing months are the months, supply and demand, when it's pretty easy to get tune-ups. These are the months when customers, homeowners are preparing their system ahead of time. They're the planners, right? So you want to get your message out. You want to get it out soon and fill those upswing months. Number one, open tune-ups, not maintenance agreement plans, and demand service, right? So the direction is we want to convert them into agreements. We want to replacement leads, preemptive repairs, revenue repairs. So upswing months, that's the strategy. Open tune-ups and demand service. Go ahead and go to the next one, Ben. High demand months. Absolutely no planned service maintenance tune-ups during this month. It's customer acquisition times. Homeowners are contacting you and want you to do business with them. So free up as many technicians as you can to engage those customers and invite them in as customers. This is probably one of the biggest misses most companies do in this plan, is that, man, during high demand months, it's customer acquisition time. Okay, so tune the team up. The team needs to understand what mode you're in right now and the objective, okay? Purpose, picture, plan, part to play. Next slide, please, Ben. Okay, the downswing months. The downswing months, still above break even. You're still going to be cleaning up on open tune-ups, which are new homeowners coming in, and demand service. Okay, so we want to stick with that. How to convert those calls. So you should know how many calls minimum you have on every technician, and that will dictate this cycle while you're in it, right? So let's go down to the lower ones there, Ben. Now this is where we should have enough maintenance agreement tune-ups with these new homeowners that we've converted to agreements during this other 3 cycles. We take that work and we put it in the months we need the work so that we can sustain and flatten the curve. Did I just say that? I did. Flatten the curve a little bit. So the next slide, Ben. So the objective is to transform this business from this, next slide, to this. And here's the fact, you can't do this by yourself. You can't, it's not possible. But how are we going to inspire the team to rally around this plan? Now, imagine, in fact, twice last week, I zoomed in on with 2 companies and rolled this very plan out for them. And had another one where I helped facilitate the service manager doing it, and it's taken off like crazy. So imagine you're the technician sitting back. The purpose is, what is the purpose? The purpose is in the picture. Imagine you're a technician and somebody stands in front of the room. Could you imagine this time next year knowing that for the entire rest of the year, you're not likely to be laid off and you're going to have plenty of work? Show of hands, who thinks that'd be pretty cool? This time next year, who would like to have 1 or maybe 2 more trucks on the road to take your part into the on-call rotation? Show of hands. Great. Next question. Who in here would be interested in when the business achieves their benchmark of revenue and anybody in the field that overachieves their standards gets a bonus? Who thinks that would be pretty cool? Gonna need some help because I can't do it myself. We can't continue doing the things that we're doing, so let me explain the plan. I can't emphasize this point enough. It's so important that we need to listen to understand what the technicians, the customer service reps, the sales reps, and everybody want. Where's the gap? What's going to motivate them to put this whole thing together so it gels as a cohesive system in the field? It's not just the tune-up. It's not just the maintenance agreements. It's not just running demand service calls. It's the strategy that's going to line everybody up in the field with how they can sustain their workplace and get what they want to, okay? And create a culture that's going to support everybody within the organization. Let's go to the next slide, Ben. Okay, with that, if you want any help with that, please let me know. Just give me a shout. Our next virtual selling workshops starts June 2nd, next week. Enroll by going to the Good Business Toolbox or the Amana Brand Business Academy. And God bless, take care. I'm going to hand it off.
Thank you so much, Tom, and thank you to everybody for just a ton of great information when it comes to tune-ups. If you do have any questions, please reach out. All of the coaches are here to help you and support you in any of your business needs that you do have. And also, look for ways that you can incorporate technology into helping your business thrive, helping you through those processes and those procedures that you have in the office. And continue to thank and encourage your people. Next week, we're going to have a strong emphasis and a focus on indoor air quality. So that'll be a session that you do not want to miss, as we have a couple of experts that are going to be coming in, talking about testing, talking about how we can resolve those problems, and then looking at the products that you have available to be able to solve those problems for your customers. So that will be a topic you do not want to miss next week. Thank you so much, everyone. And we will see everybody soon. Thank you.